Watching Buzz with Jess Lujan.
Good evening, Guam. I'm Jess Lujan. Welcome to this edition of The Buzz. Tonight I have in studio Mr. Ryan Calvo, who actually he's the voice and the face at this point of the proponents of the 15 to 7. That's cutting down the number or the size of the legislature from 15 to 17. And Ryan was, this past weekend, was on the set of Extra with Ken Quintanilla and with the interview of that, and that's how I was able to get hold of you. Good evening. How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing good, and yourself?
Real good. Let's start out again with the genesis. We've heard throughout the this past couple years about the ineffectiveness and the legislature and just not listening to the bosses, basically pretty much the people of Guam. There's talk about part-time legislature. You have you're proposing, of course, an initiative to cut down the size from 15 to 7. There's also, again, a bill that just had a public hearing a few weeks back to have term limits, basically lengthening the time of service from 2 to 4, but limiting the term served to 2 consecutive terms, getting it out for another 4 years, and then being able to, just like the governor at this point. The genesis of your proposal.
Well, this all started as I walked around for many years. It's always been the same stories. No textbooks, no buses, no money for schools and everything. Just everybody, crying out for a government that represents them. And so hopefully this is, it creates the awareness and it gets more individuals such as myself, interested and also, contacting their own legislature, because that's the whole reason that we put these individuals in office, is to represent us. And I just feel that they haven't done that. 100%, and I think that they could. It's never too late to change.
And let me ask you this, because by the virtue of the fact that cutting down the size, basically a little bit more than half, from 15 to 7. Okay. Just on looking on face value, you can say, well, we save half of the legislature's budget, which could go to other means. But that's not necessarily true in the sense the way the legislature works, unless it's specified. Will the initiative specify then that when you cut down the size of the legislature from 15 to 7, therefore that budget will be cut down as well? Will decrease by half, because they can take, if it's an $8 million budget, they can take that $8 million and put it into 7, and you just have the same amount, but the 7 would just have more money to bankroll pretty much, right? So would the initiative be inclusive of that? The reduction also be a reduction of half the legislative budget?
Well, anytime that you do an initiative, it always has to just focus on one thing at a time, and there's statutes. So of course, when I did my analysis and I did my own outline, we can't allocate and we can't say this is where it's going. You can do it, but you would have to do separate initiatives in order to do that. We can only recommend where it should go, but I think if the people did vote and they read the outline, they read the analysis, they accept it, and that's where they want the money. The legislature that comes into place should do what the people's will.
Okay. Well, I again, my concern is that.
But to answer your question, it's no, I can't put that in the reduction to reduce from 15 to 7. I would have to do that in a separate initiative. Yes.
Okay. Now let me ask you this as well, because we have, let's try to get to the initiative process. It seems like the 31st Guam legislature has kind of skewed a little bit, representative democracy, and in this case, direct democracy, in the sense of trying to put initiatives in the ballot. Now I know what the initiative or the bill was that became law was basically a to counter basically the election after election, the proponents of gambling, instilling in the voting booths every election time the voting for gambling initiatives. Now, when that bill was crafted, basically, it had all these provisions that almost made it not impossible, but very hard, almost improbable to do. Most especially individuals like just yourself. Financial statements, you have to submit all that. At this point, I think you have to have 10 public hearings, I think it is, and half of them are not to the bigger villages, and you have to have a secretary record that, and you have to also record it, in, I guess, some kind of tape recording measurement. All these are make it more difficult for people. They're a disincentive for people to want to put initiatives out to, require direct democracy.
I think that people should be able to do initiatives. I know that we've been plagued by, the gaming initiative. This is not the gaming initiative. This is actually going to bring a lot more good, and it's not a monopoly or anything like that.
But unfortunately, because it's an initiative, it has to follow the guidelines of current law.
I think they should go back and they should revisit it. Otherwise, we should do a referendum to go ahead and, I guess, appeal or amend what doesn't or what shouldn't be in the bill.
Have any senators at this point, contacted you and said, hey, I know this current law in regards to initiatives are basically we're targeted towards gaming issues. Okay, this doesn't really fit into what you're trying to do, but it affects you.
Yes, it does.
Yeah. So have you had any dialogue with any senators that say, we have to look at this again and amend it so individuals like yourself don't have to go through this much scrutiny because you are not a gambling or gaming initiative person?
At this point, I haven't, spoken with the senators. I am hoping to, speak and work with them, and I hope that we can, work together to make things easier. That everybody has the right to petition, and it's a basic right. Even in the Constitution, you have a right to petition.
Now let me ask you. So, prior to coming on the set, we were talking about the time we've been able to wake up in the morning and all that. This is prior to moving out here. You work for Starbucks, basically.
Yes.
So you're a private individual. You're a self-employed individual. You're not a government employee.
Never had a government job. Well, I did have one, but it was through AHRD. That was like when I was 14 years old.
Okay.
So I'd say never. That was a summer job, but it was more of a learning program and an introduction into the workforce and society and everything. So as far as that, no, I haven't. And
well, by the virtue of your name, Ryan Calvo, the opponents of this will probably say, or opponents of the administration will say, oh, you were put up by this administration to put this initiative forward.
There's no truth in that.
Okay. Again, you're a self-employed individual. Now, again, the genesis of this, it's nice to see. It's nice to see that individuals are taking note of what's going on and saying, hey, look, I'm tired of this, and doing something, as opposed to just talking about it and not doing anything about it. What was the one thing that took you over, basically, that edge that said, okay, I've had it. I'm going to do this?
I guess when my parents had me, they felt to correct all the, change the world. And I looked at my own son, and I don't want to, I want to at least say I tried.
Sure.
I'd rather try and fail than fail to try.
And fail to try. Okay. You said you have a child, obviously, going to one of our schools.
Oh yes, yes. I went to the public school system, and so has he.
Yeah. And so when you hear about the legislature and again their annual leave cash outs, their lapse funds and all that, and then your child comes home and says, Dad, these are things that we cannot have, or look at conditions of some of the schools. What goes through your mind?
I guess it's fortunate that the school he does go to is pretty funded, and that he's fortunate enough to have good parents that can go ahead and help him out and make up where I guess it's lacking as far as funding material or whatnot. And also to the PTO, the parent-teacher organization, is really awesome at the school he does go to. But to answer your question, it's very disappointing because every single year or every single election year, they make the same promises, to the youth, the manuncles, and everything. But who really holds them to their promises? I think the people should, and they should be accountable to the people.
I mean, a couple of weeks ago as well, I had spoken to Senator McCready, who who had written a letter, because at that time, now I don't know how many cruisers are continue to be on the road, police cruisers, and at the time of his writing a letter to the Speaker and of the other senators, is that there were only 10 police cruisers to service the people of Guam, and they needed about $10,000 to again fix to get another 10 operable, to get 10 more added onto the fleet, and asked that some of that lapsed funds money, $10,000, be given to the police department for the reasons of repairing police cruisers. I mean, doesn't that just that get you, in response time? Because, of all emergencies, I mean, you may have an emergency, I may have an emergency, but when you call 911, the police will say, well, Jesse's emergency is higher category than you because we don't have enough staff, we don't have enough vehicles to respond.
I think that, even if we had 10,000 police cruisers out there, what would really be more effective is if we had more community concern and, each other watching one another. Because, they can't be everywhere all the time, but if there's vigilant, citizens and individuals that are out there. And if we all watch each other, it'd be a better place,
But would it make a difference as well? I mean, knowing that we have a shortage, I mean, I can understand if every single branch of government had the same shortage, but it seems like only the critical areas have the severe shortage, and then in the purse holders basically are not really shorted. Anyway, we're going to take a break. We'll come back. We'll talk more about this bill and how you intend to get it through and will you get it through. We'll be right back.